Man, this walk to work in the morning never gets old. I guess you could say I was born into my passion. When I was young, my grandparents owned the local fish market in town. My dad, he's one of the more busy and active commercial fishermen. And I started with him when I was an infant. My early summers were spent fishing out with my dad. He made sure to pass down to me the knowledge he learned from my grandpa. Then after a couple years, we went shopping for my first little boat, little 14-foot springbok. Was allowed to take it out once I got good to the crab traps, which is just around the spit. When I was 12, I was allowed to bring it out here to Bates Beach.
Bates Beach was started in 1946. My dad, after he got out of the Second World War, purchased the property and opened a small fishing resort and campground. Steve was just a young kid helping out at the resort, brought his tin boat down.
I'll never forget that feeling of going out in that 14-foot tinny for the first time with the whole ocean to explore. We didn't have downriggers that had electric power or heavy 20-pound cannonballs, and I didn't have a GPS. I didn't have a radio. We didn't have cell phones back then. I used the stuff I learned with my dad. He made sure to pass down to me the essential skills like how to use visual references to locate structures like the hump. I'd still go out with my dad commercial fishing a lot of the time. That wasn't quite for me. I really enjoyed the sport fishing side of it.
I knew he had it in him because he liked the joy of catching the fish, and he's a people person. He loves that.
Back then, the guides in town had a little bit different program than we do now. They would meet for breakfast at Comox Golf Club every morning at like 8 o'clock. Dad would try to pawn me off on one of them or see if they would pick me up, and they kind of showed me what guiding was.
I had lots of old mentors kind of kept an eye on me, and I knew my old friends would keep an eye on him.
I was a teacher in the Comox Valley, and the Veloso family were a very prominent family. It was so exciting for me to see Steve, as a third-generation Veloso, becoming a fisherman in the Comox Valley.
I knew when I was graduating that staying in the Comox Valley and doing something on the water was my destiny. Then after a couple years, I was ready to get a job and was looking around for different guiding outfits. Painter's Lodge came up, got a job there on the dock because they wouldn't hire me as a guide yet. But one of the guys who I kind of worked for on the dock, his brother was up in Langara, and they had a few guys that, had to leave early for work and all that, and they needed some fill-in guys. They sent me up there.
Yeah, he walked off the helicopter and we're like, who's this kid that they just hired? Steve really had to just go out onto the water day of after getting off a float plane or a helicopter and rely on his gut and his instinct and sniff out those fish, and he found them in spots that we'd never really fished before. Steve did a couple seasons at Langara, but we could all tell he was destined to run his own company right from the get-go.
I just really was getting the burning urge to do it myself. I really like, drawing my own path, making money doing what I love. I started looking online and saved up all my money I had from that summer. Went and found that first 22-foot center console boat that started Island Pursuit Sport Fishing.
If there's ever anybody that can be a successful charter boat operator, it'll be Steve, because he is so enthusiastic and he's just passionate for fishing. I think he's the best fisherman I know. And that's saying a lot, because you want to always think you're the best fisherman, right? But no, Steve's the best fisherman by far.
The decision to start my own business wasn't taken lightly. It was met with a lot of pressure and anxiety. When all that certainty is gone and you're on your own, it's a lot of pressure.
I really admired Steve's entrepreneurial spirit to start his own gig. I'd thought long and hard about doing it alongside Steve, but I just had cold feet about the political side of our fishery and how it was being managed.
I had my first charter ever on my own boat that I purchased. We went out there and we had a pretty epic experience that day. It was 3 days of flat calm fishing. It was right after this charter, and I watched the guests walk up the dock with bags full of fish that I knew I made the right choice to start my own business. At this point, the fishing was so good and the business was growing that it gave me the confidence to purchase additional boats and take on employees. It was really surprising to see how many local businesses rely on the health of our sport fishery.
A healthy local sports fishery is extremely important for businesses such as ourselves. It's a huge part of what we do in the local community, and our sales are based largely off of what happens with the local saltwater fishery. There's already a lot of challenges when it comes to running a small business. Any added uncertainty throughout the year could be catastrophic for small businesses in this community. We're reliant on fishing charter companies such as Steve's to bring new people into the sport, and that's very important for the long-term survival of our business.
Sport fishing affects many of our tourism-related businesses in town. It is essential to help grow our regional economy.
Here at Crown Isle Resort, tourism is a huge part of what brings our customer to this area. When we are striving to bring customers from further abroad, one of the big drivers of Vancouver Island is fishing. It's so much fun to watch the Albertans and the Saskatchewans come and catch their first salmon and come back to the resorts and hear all the fish stories. Love it. I think to some of the residents that I've known for years that their introduction wasn't actually golf, it was a fishing trip. Here at Crown Isle, we obviously don't sell fishing tackle, but we do sell lifestyle. And part of that lifestyle living here on Vancouver Island is sport fishing.
Little did I know that after 15 years of hard work, my business would suffer from an event that is out of my control.
In 2018, fisheries data indicated that there were some stocks of Chinook salmon that were threatened, and accordingly, they brought in regulation to protect those salmon. Those regulations had the potential to severely impact people who made a living fishing and supporting fishing in our local waters.
Since the department came in with its non-retention about 5 years ago, it's changed almost yearly, and that's had very difficult and negative impacts on local businesses.
We've seen firsthand the damage that can occur to small businesses with changes to the local fishery. We do our best to make sure that our shelves are fully stocked for our customers. The real question is, will they have a reason to come and see us?
It's the same old thing. I bump into an old client in town and they're asking me about charter in the spring and if we're gonna have retention opportunities, and I just don't know what to tell them.
It's the uncertainty that hurts more than the closure, because we don't know.
You have to be careful when you make that decision. Economically, you can very much damage somebody's business to the point of putting them out of business. Science has to be on the forefront.
The opportunity was given to me to become more involved in the data collection. New techniques such as DNA sampling, marine survival studies, and stomach content analysis showed we have a healthy local fishery.
We now have data that is much more specific than the data we had in 2018. Our current blanket non-retention policies that fisheries has for this area, we can now show have very little or no effect on those stocks of concern. But they do have a very profound effect on those people who make a living associated with fishing in these waters.
It's sometimes said that sport fishermen only take from the resource, but I can tell you for certain that that isn't true.
This is one of many volunteer-run fish enhancement facilities that runs in parallel to their federal counterparts. This facility is entirely volunteer-run. We're not just volunteering on an enhancement side, but also on a habitat restoration side. It's important for me to put aside areas like this, but also to have the ability to use the resource to create that passion for the next generation. And without access to that resource, I think it's going to be really difficult to attract the next generation of people to help run these volunteer-based facilities and initiatives.
One of the big reasons I wanted to get involved with this system was to try to get a more hands-on approach to raising our salmon. A lot of our industry is run by bureaucracy in the East. Those folks try to do a good job, but they're not here on the ground understanding what's actually going on with our creeks and our trees, which is all the holistic part of trying to make these salmon come to life and get back to the ocean where they belong.
It really is the volunteer group that's kept this facility going, but also the fish run here, the coho, and every year there's improvements made, whether it's habitat related or fish culture. Thousands of hours are going into the salmon resource that's right at our doorstep.
We are now collecting the data to provide retention opportunities to local healthy stocks instead of having these long periods of blanket non-retention.
Our local stocks here, for Chinook stocks, are abundant and can easily support recreational fishing opportunities now and into the future.
It really makes you wonder if these regulations are based on science or something else.
A healthy fishery, that is really important to me because I want to be able to hand this down to my grandkids, give them something to look forward to and have the spark in their eyes like Stephen did when he was young.
I can already see that my kids have caught the passion for fishing, and I would want nothing more than to be able to hand down this business for them to take over, much like I did with my dad.
I hope you find this place before you end your days. And if you see me out there, wave hello.